This conference will now be recorded.
Hi guys, good evening. Suresh here.
Hi Suresh.
Hi guys, good evening. Good evening one and all. Okay, so guys, in our session today, we are going to look towards the pick list, the way how the drop down fields across success factors in various modules will be handled. So that is what we start with, and followed by we'll also look into the employee transactions, the way how the employees or the HRs and all they perform the data updates in the system once the employee hiring is done. So what are the other areas that employees will handle, what HRs will handle, or managers, and how the way they have to handle that ESS MSS transactions. All that is what we'll be looking at. Okay, so yeah, before that, any specific questions regarding yesterday's custom MDF portlet requirement, guys? Anyone?
Not the custom MDF portlet. I created a custom MDF object, but that is not visible into the job info.
Yeah, I just saw your mail. So you are saying, Poonam, 1 second. You created a custom MDF object, right? Okay. So where are you searching for that? It's in the job info portal.
Yeah.
So in the job info portlet, did you add any field for that?
Yeah, I added.
You added a field in the manage business configuration?
Business configuration, yeah.
Okay. So after giving the after adding the field in the business configuration, did you give the permission for that field?
I set it as no.
Sorry?
I mean I have maintained the RBPs also, role based permission, yeah.
Role based permission for that particular field of the job information portlet you have assigned.
Yeah.
Okay, then let me just open your system, because your mail is not having any screenshots of it. I'm unable to reply back on it. I need to check the details in the session with you. Let me just log into your system. Just a moment, guys. Let's see some query. So what is the role in which you have given the permission for that field? Poonam?
Yeah, the first one, super admin.
Super admin. How can you give in this, but you don't have access to this role, right? So as per the permissioning concept, the permission, we give the authorization for that the target population is there, for whom it is granted and on whom they can use. You have this all the grant. Sorry?
I mean, as far as my knowledge goes, this role was assigned to all the employees, the all employees target population.
Target population is all employees, but granting level we don't have view. SF admin Vishnu, did you assign your name in this group?
No, that was also one of the queries. I mean, like in SAP, we have a specific transaction where I can see what roles are assigned to my ID, or I can go ahead and assign the roles. So, what kind of
Okay.
concept is
So the
there? That
actual
is the other
expectation
query.
is it's not about searching. My
Okay.
expectation is you have to create your roles. That is where you practice. You create one role for you, select all the permissions what you want. You create a group where for your particularly you had your name, so that you will have all that authorizations what you create for yourself. So that way, if you practice by selecting all the required permissions, creating your own role, where parallelly permissioning with this object you can practice. That's my point of specifically asking these questions. So that at the end of the day, you will land up in that point where you can create your own role. Okay. So in this system, particularly, if I have to say, you have a role in T role. So there is a role created in the name of T role. In that, you have the permissions, all the participants manage. Here we have a T role. Okay, so in this T role, if you go and you select that particular checkbox of permission, you'll be able to see that particular new field what you added on the job information portlet. T role. Okay, this is what I am directly saying. But for your second query, how to find in which what are the roles that you have? So you have in the same admin center, the place where you are working on these permissions. Here you have the option called user role search, view user permissions, these kinds of things. If you go for the last one, view user permissions, you enter your username and click on search. What all permissions are given to you, through which role you are getting the permissions, it will show you. Say your ID is something with the name of Poonam. So Poonam is a username. For you, what are all the permissions? You can click on view permission. A pop-up comes across all the modules in this system, whatever are the various permissions that you were given, which permission is coming from which role, all that will be listed now here in this pop-up. Just a second. Yeah. So here on the left hand side, all the permissions and from which role they are given, right hand side. So T role will be found everywhere. That is the role which has been given for all of your participants. The other roles are different for different people while they are practicing different things. So automatically, whenever they select all and all, so all employee target populations, if they give, automatically you will be also called into that. So other groups also are given. Employee self-service is a standard role where everybody is automatically taken into that role. And T role is additional role, which with all the various permissions across the system that I have given for all of you, like this. Okay. So this way
Okay.
you can find which roles are given to you. In that roles, you can add whatever are the required additional permissions for.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Show
I'll
you the
take it.
navigation guys. Yeah, you can add your required field permission the T role, and you can experience your changes. So it's under set user permissions. You have view user permissions that will help you anybody to know from which role you guys are getting the permissions. You can look into that as well. Okay, that's good. Any other queries, gentlemen?
There,
Hello, anybody
hello.
speaking?
Yeah, there are two options over here. One is manage RBP and one is manage permission roles. The difference between the two?
Manage RBP.
One is, yeah, if I go into the search option and
You have managed permission groups and permission roles. You mean to say about these two things?
below it is manage role based permission.
This is different. So the roles you create here, groups you assign here, and for which roles you are assigned, this is the one that you are required to be concerned. So who should work on the permissioning is what you will get the access through this. Okay, so this thing will not be given for everybody. So for by mistake, if you guys have also, that will be revoked. So this is an area that it is not supposed to be handled. Permission groups, permission roles, and this is something that will be useful for you. So in this system, who all should handle the permissioning, who can give the authorization to someone else on the permissioning and all, we as an admin, we deal with it here. Okay. Fine, guys. So let me get into today's agenda. That's about the pick list. So now let me say log out. So this is your system, guys. My system and your system is different. Just close the system. Log in into mine. So across success factors, guys, not only specific to Employee Central, in multiple modules, wherever you have a drop-down field. So if there are, say, example, 100 drop-down fields in success factors, 80 out of them, 80% of the drop-down fields across success factors will be of type pick list. A drop-down field is of a type pick list. A drop-down value is called a pick list value. Okay, say you go for any action, any portlet. Say example, if you're hiring an employee, add new employee, you go for. Then this add new employee, it will ask you your first name, last name, and middle name. Along with that, a field called salutation, Mr., Mrs., Miss. Like this, you have some salutation values that comes in the drop down. Similarly, gender, male and female. Marital status, single, married, divorced, widowed. Like this, different marital statuses will come in the system. So for all that, say example here, the salutation field. These drop down values, where are they coming from? Okay, next, this country of birth. You have a lot of countries coming in the drop down here. Where are all these country names defined in? So all that is what we handle in a place called as pick list center, guys. So if you just search with the keyword as pick list, here you have in the pick list center, you will have all the drop down values master maintained there. So any pick list field can be technically called as a any drop down field can be technically called as a pick list field. A drop down value is called a pick list value. Okay, so here in this system under pick list center, there are 478 pick lists created. A pick list is one set of fields. Say example, salutation, that Mr., Mrs., Master, whatever you saw, that is one set of pick list. It is having 4 values under it. Similarly, blood group, if you take, blood group is one set of pick list. Under that, A positive, A negative, B positive, all that blood group values will be there. So example, if I show you that salutation, here on the top search area, you can search for it. There is one pick list called salutation, which will internally have, once you click on it and enter inside, you will have the values, Miss, Mr., Mrs., all that. So that is the values that are coming here in the drop down list, the same 4 fields. Similarly, if you want to have a blood group field anywhere, so for the blood group field or marital status field, say here I go for searching, again back to pick list center. Here if I search for blood group, here you have the blood group. In that you have list of values, 8 drop down values, O negative, O positive, O negative, A positive, AB negative, all these different values. So pick list code, blood group is a pick list code given here. Similarly, in the previous example, salutation is the pick list code given there. Salutation. Salutation is the code. Against that code, there are some values. Here you have the code salutation and there are some values. Now, in the succession data model is where if we speak in terms of employee central, what all fields in which we maintain the employee data, all that fields are coming from the succession data model XML. Even this salutation field, what you see, it comes from the personal information portlet salutation field. Okay, this field is defined in the succession data model under that portlet, but drop down values of that field where they are defined is the question. That is, we have it defined here in the pick list center under salutation as a pick list code, and this code is what we link it. We copy this code and link it with this particular field configuration in the succession data model XML. So when this field is linked with that particular pick list code, for that code, against that code, whatever are the values that see in pick list center, they will appear at the field level. That is, so we know that we have business configuration, the front end place of succession data model. So just go for the business configuration. Yeah, manage business configuration, and here we can open that particular portlet, which is the personal information portlet in which we have the salutation field basically. Let me open that. Yeah, so here we have the personal info portlet on the left hand side is selected. Now on the right hand side under the fields, that salutation field will be also one, where here you have it, salutation as a field. For this field, linking this pick list code is where if you go under the properties of it, along with other attributes like the length of the field, the mandatory, non-mandatory conditions, label of the field, masking of data, visibility attribute. Along with this, here you have a attribute called as pick list. So this is the attribute what we have been parking all these days. So in the list of attributes what we use in the succession data model, all this we have been discussing. Pick list we parked for the further discussion. That is where now we are looking. Pick list as one more attribute where you'll have the list of all the pick list IDs what are created in the pick list center. So here under pick list center we have around 479 pick lists, right, that are created. If I clean it, it's totally, it will show us 478 pick lists. So that 478 pick lists are coming here in the drop down, all of them. So in that, salutation is what we have selected against this. The salutation is the exact code what has been given in the pick list center, as it is as case sensitive, guys. So here in the pick list center, it is defined as small letters completely. So there also it will be defined in the small letters only. Here if S is a capital letter, here also when you give it the same S as a capital letter, that should be there. So basically whatever you create here, that will come in the drop down like this. So you just have to select from that list. So now this pick list called salutation is connected with this field called salutation in the people profile portlet. So automatically on the front end, when you are maintaining the input for that field, the drop down values will come up. Not only for this field, for marital status, for nationality, for languages, like that, different information of the employees, all the places will have this pick list as a concept that works here. For all the standard portlets, whatever fields you see in the business config, for every field you have this attribute called as pick list. So in that pick list, you are required to select this. And here, type of reference object is what you are required to give as pick list, guys. That is also important. What type of reference object is pick list? So while we are creating that custom MDF object called subdivision, when we created a custom field called subdivision in the job information to refer to that values of the custom MDF object, which we kept it as MDF this foundation object, and reference object level we have given that subdivision object code. But if it is pick list, if you choose in that field what are the drop down values, if it should be the pick list type field, then here you have a pick list drop down altogether. Like that. For foundation object, you are required to give the code of the object. If it is type of references pick list, you will have a drop down, and from that you can choose it. So for that field, what are the inputs? That field inputs can be through pick list, or it can be through foundation object, or it can be an employee number. Okay, so we now want a pick list, and the pick list is salutation. When you connect here on the front end, it is going to appear in this way, guys. So this is how we have a master location of all the pick lists created under the pick list center, and whatever is the code given against each and every pick list, that code is what you link it with the particular field in the business configuration. And end of the day, whatever are the values defined for that field in the pick list center, they will appear in the people profile portlet. So when you go under any pick list code, you will have that code here, the code, and under that you will have the values. Tomorrow, if your customer is asking you to add any value also, you have an option here, guys. SF standard has given 4. If your customer is asking you to add one more as doctor, doctor as one more salutation, you can add it. Just go for here, add a value. You can add one code and label for it. So DR as a code, D a capital D a small r dot as a label. Clearly, you can maintain it. So here, if I just go for this add value, the screen opens up, in which the code I can maintain it as DR and the label as doctor dot. That's it. Other values are not required for employee central. Only this code label is what is required. Click on create. That will be added along with the other pick list values. Previously it used to be 4, now the 5th one. That will reflect on the front end. So whenever you click on the salutation drop down, you will get the dot DR as one more new one what we have created. That also should come now. This is the one DR. Okay, this is how it comes. And how why dir is coming now in the first place, we added it just now and it is in the last place. Why it came into the first place is, here for every pick list you will have an option how it should be appearing on the front end. Display order is alphabetical. So when I keep it as alphabetical, in this all these are starting with M, this is starting with D. So alphabetical order, D comes first, doctor is showing first, that way. Okay, we have an option of alphabetical, numeric or custom, guys. We have three drop down values here. Display order as alphabetic, numeric or custom. So if it is the drop down values are containing any numbers, then we choose it as numeric, or it's alphabetic for normal text. Custom means if you keep it as custom, in which order you create here, and finally here in which order you place them, in the same order they will appear on the front end. Okay, so that is the third option of custom we choose for the display order, guys. So that way we can handle the drop down values across the success factor system wherever you see them, where 80% of the drop down fields are of type pick list only. There are few other drop down fields which will be of different other data types. So it can be derived as a data type, enumerated as a data type, and all that comes up in the specific context, where PMGM is one module which will have drop down fields but not of pick list type. PMGM module, there is no single pick list type drop down field. I am not saying there are no drop down fields. In PMGM module also we have drop down fields, but none of them is of type pick list. There is another type called enumerated, we call that, we using that data type, it is created in that module. Okay, that way. So majority of the drop down fields across multiple modules of success factors are created and maintained here under the pick list center. Okay, so this is how we deal with the standard fields, standard pick lists, all that. Next, we are required to look towards a custom one. Say example, now yesterday we created a custom MDF portlet, that is asserts portlet. In that portlet, we have the assert name field, which is laptop. As I told you, we are entering laptop, car, mobile, all that, which instead of adding a free text field, you can change it into a drop down. In that case, it's not an SF standard given pick list. We are creating with some set of drop down values. What should come in the drop down? You are creating one pick list set. That pick list code, what you create, you are required to link it with that custom field in the MDF object. So that is the sequence of steps we do. So for that, guys, we can go for the business configuration. So now the business configuration, object definition, the place where we have this object created is configure object definition, right? So I'm going for the object definition. So here in the configure object definition, you have object what we created, object definition of what is that, the object is assert, right? Assert parent, this is the one. I said March 9, this is the one, the parent object what we created yesterday. So this parent level, you don't have that assert name field. I'm just trying to remind you guys again, in the parent you only have the employee number, the employee code, and the start date, where in the assert list, the child object level, this is a child object which is having all the fields of the assert details, name of the assert, quantity of the assert given, all that here. In that external name is a field which is carrying the asset name actually. So here I will turn it into editable mode, make correction, and here under external name I go for the details. Here now this external name field is what we have given it as assert name label, but that is of a type data type as string. String means a free text field where they are already able to enter the input, but instead of string we can change the data type as pick list. You keep the data type as pick list instead of string. Now here just immediately under the data type you have something called as valid value source, guys. Here we don't have that attribute called pick list directly. Data type as pick list and valid value source is where we are required to give the pick list code. So here example, this pick list is salutation. This code is what we are required to copy paste it here against that field. So that drop down field will bring that salutation values like that. So valid value source is an important attribute where you link your pick list code. That's an important certification question. Now we need a pick list with our set of values. Then in this pick list center, you can start creating. So till now there are 478 existing pick lists that are already delivered by SF in the system. If you want to create a new one, you have this create new pick list option, add icon in the toolbar here. You just click on this plus icon, system will show you a place where you can start the pick list. So for your new pick list, you can give the code. I'm just giving it as assets. That's the code. Name as assets with capital A. So this is a code, and the values should be in the alphabetical order itself, and click on save. Is the code name display order is what you require. Now for recognize this code is where you are required to add the values here, guys. I'm just clicking on add value. So here you are required to give the code of that value, which is say L for laptop. One by one you can add whatever drop down values you want to have. Next you can have M for mobile, and you can have C for a company car, like this. Whatever number of values you want you can add. There is no limit on the number of drop down values at all, guys. All that you can maintain, and parallelly you can also maintain the translations also for every drop down value text that you are maintaining. So the translations in the respective languages can also be maintained here itself. Just a moment, it's taking too long.
Suresh, Rupa here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, external code normally is system generated, na? We don't give it, right?
No, we
So
are
why
giving
are we
it.
giving for pick list?
Sorry,
For pick list we give
where
external code like L and all.
pick list values. L is a pick list value. Even it is a pick list or pick list value, you are defining it. Laptop, mobile, car, whatever you are defining is a pick list values. For that also code you are required to give, system will not generate. And even for the pick list, what you really created as asserts, this is a pick list we call, guys. Again, as the pick list is as the pick list value you add. You can call it as drop down field, drop down. In SF terminology, you call it as pick list code and pick list values. So here you give the code. Even this is what you are required to give. Even for every label also code you are only required to give. System will not auto generate.
So only for pick list we have to give external code.
Only for pick list, miss?
I believe in the last sessions you had mentioned that external code is system generated, right?
It's not mandatory. If you want to have auto generation, we can have it. That is at the objects level. It's not at this pick list values level. It's an objects. Say example, whenever you create a new department, new location, for those things is where I have to auto generation. But for this, no, we'll not have an option to have auto generation. You are going to manually maintain it. Whenever you keep on creating multiple departments, multiple business units, divisions, for that is where we'll have the auto number generation setup process. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
The foundation objects. Yeah. So the point why I've entered in again is, so for every label that you are maintaining, guys, against the label field, you have this globe icon where if you just click on it, system will show you the option to maintain the translations of that words in other languages as well. So if suddenly the user is trying to use the system in Japanese, even in Japanese, what you call as laptop, you can maintain and they can see it in that. That is the way. So that way we have created these three drop down values, and now this pick list code called assets is what you can link it with that respective field, assert name field, what we have created yesterday in the custom MDF object. Here, keeping the data type as pick list and assigning the valid value source attribute here as assets. That's it. So yesterday, where did we have that asset name field? For that field, we went into the details We changed the data type from string to pick list, and under valid value source that pick list code has been given. Now save it. Once you save this on the employee profile portlet level, the custom portlet what we added yesterday, if we open that, you will be able to see that asset name field will turn into a drop down with the 3 values what we created. So let this get saved. So here, let me open the profile, employee file. Company asserts the custom portlet what we added yesterday. So if you go to this edit mode, now if you want to add a new pick list, so add one more one, a new if you want to add a new asset, click on add asset. This time today, asset name you will see as a drop down with car, laptop, mobile, whatever you have added. So this is the place where you have created a screen, you have created a custom field. For that field, what are the drop down values? You created your own pick list and you linked it with the custom field what you created, completely your own creation. It's not standard SF given pick list, it's what we have created and we link it with our own field. That is this. So for the business configuration level, manage business configuration level, for portlet level, you will have the pick list as a drop down values. You can choose that. But when it comes to these MDF based objects, you are required to go to the properties of that field, but you will not have that pick list as a direct drop down. You have this attribute called valid value source. There also you will choose the field type, reference field type as pick list, but here you have one more pick list as a drop down, but here in the MDF it is replaced with valid value source. You are required to give that code, whatever code you have created guys, as it is. Case sensitive, if it is small letters, small, capital means capital, the same as it is has to be copy pasted here. So there if it is small letters and you give the code level here capital letter, both will not match. It will not give you any drop down values in the front end. It says no data. When you're trying to click on this drop down, it says no data because the mapping is lost. That is the way. Okay. So this is how we handle the pick list guys. That might be the standard pick list or the custom pick list. That might be at succession data model or at the MDF portlet level, anything. Any questions here? Okay, so the next thing that we are required to look at is now its profile. Yeah, sorry, anybody has a question? Okay, fine. So now on this profile, guys, you saw the employee hiring process initially when we started the employee central sessions. So using add new employee, filling all the various categories of employee information, we fill the employee details and the employee number is generated and he's hired. Now, on top of that, later on, if there are any updations, changes to be done on the employee data, what areas employee can touch, what areas the HRs will make it. Okay, is that except the core EC portlets, these things, not even core EC level, not all. These things, employment specific core EC portlets, I can see. Employment information specific core EC portlets, the 4 portlets, which has personal information, job information, compensation, and job relationships. These 4 portlets is where only a HR administrator will maintain, guys. Either a HR in a company or the managers in the company. Most of the time, HRs only will do it. So they will make these updates normally. Okay, say example in the job information level, if the employee's designation has to be changed, employee department has to be changed, his location has to be changed, anything, or compensation level, his salary components are to be updated. Job relationships level, his HR has to be changed, his matrix manager has to be changed, any reporting relationship changes. All these 4 areas, only the managers or the HRs in the company will be given an authorization to do that. The other portlets, the dependent details, address details, contact details, national IDs, all these things employees can be given an access. It depends upon the customer's choice finally whether to give that access to the employees or not, but these can be given. But these 4 areas is what we will never give access to the employees, because these are something relevant to his employment details and all, where employee should not change it. Even personal information portlet also 90% customers will not give it, because that is the place where employee first name, last name, his marital status, these important things will be there. So customers will mostly not give even that areas. Okay, contact numbers, dependents, address details, okay, these kinds of things are fine. National IDs, education details, certification details, all that are fine. But these 4 areas, most of the time the HRs in the company will retain the access at their control level. Okay, so now if you are required to make any changes guys as an employee, say if I go for personal information, so here national IDs, if I want to add a national ID I can. Work permit means if I got a work visa for a country, a business visa for any country, like that, anything if I want to maintain, I can maintain the details here. What is that visa related work permit information, I can fill all these fields and I can upload it. Any scan copies of the documents I can upload, I can save it, and I can even configure the workflows for that. Whenever I maintain something, it's not immediately saved in the database, it goes for a particular approval, only if they approve, then only it will be saved in the database that way. Okay, and the national IDs can be added, and next you have the primary emergency contact, normal contact details, address details, dependent details, all these various kinds I can update directly by myself. But HR related, that 4 areas whatever I am telling, among that personal information is what they can handle here directly. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry for the background noise guys. So personal information portlet is what the HRs can directly update by using this edit icon. They can go there and update the first name, last name, employee marital status changes, anything that they can update here. Whereas other 3 portlets, the very 3 important portlets of employee central, the job information, compensation information, and job relationships, these 3 you are not supposed to go through the direct portlet, and here you are not supposed to click on edit and update. You are required to follow a process of actions. Here on the right hand top you have actions, take action, change job and compensation information. From this path only you are required to follow the navigation guys. The reason is whatever any validations, workflows, anything that we have configured on this portlet, so that will work only when you go through this path. Directly from here, if you are trying to do any approvals and all configured, any business rules to be triggered, there are chances they will not trigger. So that's why SF recommends to go through this path. But specifically these 3 portlets: job information, compensation information, and one more called job relationships. These 3: job information, compensation information, and job relationships. For these 3 portlets, that is the navigation we are required to follow. Actions, change job and compensation information. When in your logins, if you guys try it on your own logins, you will not find this guys. The reason is this options will come only on employee records, where all the IDs that were given to you guys, those are not the employee logins. They are just general user logins with which you can log in and do some configurations and all. You are not maintaining the system as employees, but the Sanya Singh is maintained as an employee. Okay, so for this, if you go for this actions, change job and comp info, you will be able to see that areas. So which area you want to change? Job information is an area. If you want to change the employees business unit, employees division, department, location, okay, employee manager, employee pay grade, full-time or part-time employee, contractor or permanent employee, such kind of fields, if you want to update anything relevant to the employee's job, you will update here. You will select this checkbox. If it is relationships, reporting relationships, apart from manager, any other reporting relationships like HR, matrix manager, all that, here you choose this job relationship. So for anything, you are required to first choose the effective date. So from which date the new change what you are going to update, from which date it should be effective. So from today itself, from 10th of March, I want that to be effective is the point. So here you can maintain HR manager if you want to change, matrix manager if you want to change for this employee, or any one more additional job relationship you want to maintain, like custom manager something. Here you can type their name and you can save it. Effective today, 10th of March, you also have somebody called custom manager linked with your profile, like that. So for updating these job relationships, you use this. For updating the employee position, business unit, division, department, location, pay grade, reporting manager, all that, you go for job information. So position, company, business unit, division, department, location, all this. Employee supervisor, his pay grade, all this kind of stuff. For that, you go for this first one, job info. And the last one, we need not give any explanation. The name itself says compensation is all about the salary details. So effective April 1st, if I want to give a hike in the employee's salary, choose the date as April 1st, choose the date as April 1st, and here at the bottom you will have the place where you can maintain the salary components. His existing basic salary is 3715 USD. If you want to increase it, increase it. And if you want to add one more component along with base salary, from today we are going to plan to give him meal allowance. So add that component, whatever amount you want to give, maintain it, all that. So that is where you choose the compensation information. So for these three areas to be updated, we go through this pathways. Change job and compensation information, and here you can have the job information, job relationships, and compensation information updated through this navigation. Any other portlets, if HR wants to update, they can directly go to the portlet, work permits, employee national IDs, employee personal information, everything. They can go through the normal edit access and they can update. At that three specific portlets, you are required to follow this path. Okay. So this is with respect to how to handle the employee records. Once you hired them using add new employee, so from which path you are required to update, which areas we normally give the employees an access, which areas we restrict only to the HR's level, is just an idea that I want to give you in the real-time perspective. So it's company's choice. There are customers who don't give access for employees to edit anything at all. They say that any change, employee has to come to me, HR will update. HR has to update, HR should be given the information by the employee, and HR will update in the system. We don't give the access to employees directly to update. There are customers who say like that, so it's up to their decision. So then we don't give any edit access. All the portlets will be in a read-only mode for employee. They can see the data. If they find there is some mistake in their data or any updates, they are married and they want to update their marital status, anything, they can convey it to the HR, and HR will come here and click on edit icon. Employee will not have the edit icon, only view access. We can do that through permissioning. Okay, so this is how the profile maintenance happens on this SuccessFactors people profile for any employee. In this process of updating anything on the portlets, either it's employee updating or HR updating, if a company wants to have approval process, say a approval process of either it has to go to manager approval, HOD approval, the HR approval, like that. So either employee is maintaining or HR is maintaining or manager is editing something on my profile, anything, you can have some workflow mechanism configured for that approval process. So how does the approval process in SuccessFactors works is what we'll start from tomorrow, guys. We'll start discussing on it, how the employee central workflow processes, approval mechanisms start. Okay, so that is a lengthy discussion. It's a continuous discussion only for workflows process. It will take a minimum 2 days. It's workflows integrated with business rules. A very interesting and a very important topic of business rules will start. Workflows with business rules. So based on some conditions and rules, you will have the workflows triggered. If there is particular data of a employee of IT department got changed, then it has to go to this particular person's approval. If the employee whose data got changed, if he belongs to IT department, then it has to go to somebody else approval. Okay. Similarly, if the employee belongs to Mumbai location, he is the approver. If the employee belongs to Delhi location, then somebody else is the approver. If you want to call different approvals based on the employee attributes, so for that various conditions to be validated. So if the employee is less than 5 years, a different workflow. For the employee, if his total experience in the company is greater than 5 years, then different person has to approve. Like that, any conditions based on the customer requirement, we can write based on the data what is maintained on this people profile. On any portlet, any field level, whatever condition the customer has, you can validate that condition, and if that condition met, what should happen? You can have that rules triggered. Okay, so validating the rules, triggering the automated workflows, all that we look into, which is a very important topic in terms of interviews, certification, real time, everything. It's important and even more interesting parallelly. Okay, so in that regard, so I also want to give you some glance of it, where do we maintain the workflows in success factor system is. So workflows are actually treated as the foundation objects, guys. So in the foundation objects, we have these locations, location groups, pay components, all these guys. Till now, we have been looking at these examples. Normally, as of now, our understanding is foundation object is something that acts as a building block, a foundation block in establishing the company's structure, like the organizational structure, the pay structure, job structures for that things. But here, these additional, there are three more things called workflows, event reasons, and dynamic roles. Additional foundation objects we call. So additional foundation objects are those three things which also are configured under the corporate data model along with the location group, where these are coming from the corporate data model. As we know, even these three things are coming from the corporate data model. But conceptual wise, if you see, these are not the foundation objects. These are not building blocks. This workflows, dynamic roles, these are some technical things. These are not building blocks like departments, locations, okay, pay components. These are not some building blocks of the company. These are for some approvals and technical things. But architecture wise, they have included these three objects also in the corporate data model, guys. In the corporate data model XML, you see it. So I'll just cut down this here. Workflow config, workflow dynamic role, event reason. These are the objects that are present here. So in the corporate data model, they are defined. So that way we call them as additional foundation objects, guys. Additional foundation objects. These three will be called as separately additional foundation objects. And there can be a next certification question expected. They can give you 3 or 4 objects in the answers, and they can say which among the below is an additional foundation object. So if there are any option among these three, you are required to select that. They give you one among these three, and the others as these things, something they give you. So whichever is among these three, if there is any option in the list of answers, you are required to select them. Additional foundation object is workflows, event reasons, and dynamic roles. So slowly, in next 1, 2, 3 days, you'll understand what is workflow, what is event reason, what is dynamic role in detail. And as it is said that this is also called as an additional foundation object coming from the corporate data model. The definition is here in the corporate data model. Now, if I am required to create a new workflow in the success factor system, a workflow is nothing but a set of approvers. First approver is manager, second level approver is HR, like that. If I'm required to configure some approval process in employee central, so where should I go, guys? If it is defined in the corporate data model, for creating a new workflow, what would be the place to create it? Anyone? Should I call any names? A workflow object is defined here. If I am required to create a new workflow, where should I go? A location is defined here. If I am required to create a location, where am I going? Some try, gentlemen, some try. Where am I creating a location in the success factor system? Rupa.
Corporate data model.
This is the corporate data model I am already showing in front of you. So do I create a location here? And where can I click on a button to create a new location?
Is org, pay, and job structure.
Exactly, guys. That's what I'm
Manage
saying.
org.
Foundation objects. The data maintenance is manage or pay structures. Anything being defined under corporate data model, for data maintenance, you go for manage or job pay structures. So location is a corporate data model object. You go for manage org job pay structures for data creation. Okay, similar way. Now, because corporate data model level, even workflow is also defined. Workflow object is defined. If I am required to create a new workflow, I'll go for the same org job pay structure. Here you have this manage org job pay structure where you are able to see the existing locations in the system till now. In the same place, if you scroll down, workflow will also be an object, and there are a lot of workflows configurations that are as such delivered already in the system. If I pick something randomly, so there is a workflow here which contains approvers. First level approver, second level approver, like this. So who is first level approver, who is second level approver, you can define it. You have no limit on the number of approvals. You want to have 3 level, 4 level, 5 level, you can create any number of levels of approvals. So workflow is a set of approvers. Multiple approvers can be maintained. So if you want to create a new workflow, just go for right hand side, create new. The way how you create new location, you create a new workflow. The workflow is, again I'm repeating, it's a set of approvers. Now I want to create a workflow in which first approver will be manager, second approver will be HR, third approver will be matrix manager, like that if I want to create. So in this workflow screen, giving some details of the workflow, ID, name and all, here is the approvers maintenance process. First approver, I want it to be the employee's manager. Second approver, as soon as I add the second one, step 3 comes. Step 3 gets added. So step 2 level approval, I want to have manager's manager, second level manager as the approver. Third approval, I wanted to have as HR, employees HR. Like this, I can keep on adding the approvers. This is how we create the workflow in Employee Central, which is a very basic one that I told you, but you have a lot of attributes here. You have a lot of attributes here against each and every approver type, a lot of properties to be maintained. So what are these and all? We'll discuss in detail in the tomorrow's session. But this is the place where do we work on workflows, because it is coming from the corporate data model. Anything that is defined in the corporate data model, that front end creation place is manage or job pay structures. Okay, you guys have to still read the documentation itself, guys. Practice is secondary. First of all, you guys are not clear with the navigations itself, means you still have to sit on this Excel file. Exercises, practice is a later stage. First is this navigations. I did not even ask you some other different object. Location. Every session level we are discussing about this location as a common example. Anyways, so that is about the workflows that we'll start tomorrow, where this only is one single page, this workflow page discussion, each every attribute discussion, that itself will take the entire day tomorrow. Okay, so each and every attribute can be a question actually. So all these attributes we will be discussing about how to create a workflow, new workflow. And the day after tomorrow's session, we'll be looking into how to trigger the workflow. First you create a workflow, so how should that be triggered? How will system know that this approval has to be triggered? So that for that we use the concept of business rules that we'll see in the day after tomorrow session. So the 2 sessions discussion, that to complete workflow triggering process in Employee Central, you'll get to understand. Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
Fine, gentlemen. Thank you one and all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.